to make it 28-3. Arthur Blank loving it, up by 25. Toss to White. He's in. What a comeback!
All right, welcome back to the 28-3 podcast. We are coming to you remote on this one. This is our Falcons prediction episode. First week of Saints interim head coach Darren Rizzi. First week of the post-Dennis Allen era.
Fuck yes.
In the Dome versus the Falcons. I mean, could set up pretty nicely, guys. Or, could be more of the same, but we'll see. I'm optimistic. So we're going to roll through our predictions in this one. Maybe give a couple little thoughts about the game. Max, what are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, I'm kind of torn on this one. The teams usually get the boost from the interim head coach. Everyone's fired up. The other coach is out the door. He sucked. All the stuff's coming to light, all the mistakes that he was making, just little nuggets here and there are dropping. The biggest thing to me, they were talking about the locker room, how they kept it the exact same way that Peyton had it during COVID. And it made a lot of sense when Peyton did that, separating the position groups just so a whole group wouldn't get wiped out if someone got COVID. But why 3 years later were they still doing that? That seems pretty basic that you would want the wide receivers with the wide receivers, the linemen with the linemen, et cetera, et cetera. So just little things like that. And then they were talking about the pregame or pre-practice stretching, which apparently we weren't really warming up before practice. I don't know what to think about that, but
that's wild to me that they had to be doing some kind of warm up. Maybe it's more of a deliberate thing, but I saw the locker room thing too about where they physically sit. I'm not going to pretend to know what every locker room in the NFL or any other level does and what's more effective, if there's even a way to study that. But I mean, just generally speaking, it seems good that position guys are next to other position guys. But moreover, I like that Rizzi's coming in and kind of putting his own fingerprint on things and not worrying about the interim tag and just saying, look, interim or not, we need to win some football games. And I'm going to do the things that I think need to be done to help that happen. Now I know there's a contingent of Saints fans that are like, oh shit, he's gonna go ahead and win us 5 games at the end, in this stretch, and it's gonna ruin our draft pick. And if that happens, that happens. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think any interim coach or whatever level kind of coach you're in is gonna come in there and say, yeah, my job is to come in here and not try to win games.
Yeah, you can tell he's going all out to try to get this job on a full-time basis. All these moves he's making. He basically retired your boy Grantham, made him
which, look, when Grantham came in, I was like, all right, you know what? Maybe a position coach spot is the right thing for him, because when he was Georgia's defensive coordinator, I believe I was still there in college, and I remember I did not like our defense when he was the coordinator.
Well, he's not a good coach.
It seemed undisciplined. It just didn't work with the personnel. So, but he was always known as being a good D-line guy. Well, that clearly hasn't been the case with us. So I really like the fact that Rizzi was like, yeah, don't coach that position anymore.
Yeah, like Rizzi basically pushed him out the door. Whatever his senior advisor role is basically a fancy term for being demoted.
He did to Grantham what we hope and wish that Gale would do to Mickey.
Yeah, exactly. That's the perfect analogy for it, and that's exactly what we need Gale to do. But as far as this game goes, I think it's going to be, they'll get the boost, the emotional boost, especially early on. Just from having the interim coach, everybody seems fired up. They're all wearing the Merry RIZZmas shirts in the locker room. So obviously they're excited to have the new coach in place. I think Rizzi, as I said before, is going to bust his ass to take this job on a permanent basis. Like, he's going all out. You don't usually see interim coaches making moves like that, like bringing in somebody to basically run the special teams now in his place. Promoting Grantham out of the spot, the defensive line spot. So I think they're going to be real fired up. It's Falcons hate week. They hate the Falcons, obviously. You heard Cam Jordan talking about it in the locker room. I think the guys will be fired up and they'll come out swinging. The big things that concern me, obviously, Olave is not going to play this week. I really don't think we'll see Olave again this season. It just doesn't make any sense to play him when the season's basically lost. Given that he is realistically, he's one of your foundational pieces on offense. So you're down your top 2 wide receivers. Tight end wise, you're still looking at Foster's your best one. Running back wise, you've got Kamara and nobody else. Derek Carr looked rusty last week. McCoy did practice today, I believe, on a limited basis. So I'm not sure what his status is for the game. So the offensive line at least is getting healthier. Man, Atlanta's coming in hot. I'm really torn on this one. I really think I could see us winning, but I could also see after the initial, push, us getting the fucking just blown out. Just the way Atlanta's been throwing the ball. You're still missing. What's Kool-Aid's status? Did we see that today?
Didn't practice, I don't think.
He didn't practice, so Lattimore obviously no longer on the team. So that's a little dicey, especially if Kool-Aid doesn't play, man. That's a tough matchup against the Falcons.
Especially against London. And
he threw for what, 500 yards against the Bucks a few weeks ago. He's been cooking lately, man. He really has.
Cousins has been doing exactly what Cousins needs to do, given his age and skill set, or lack of mobility and the bad Achilles. He's not bombing it down the field all game. He's shown an ability to hit the crossing routes and intermediate routes, but he puts it right in the spot where his guys who are athletic and young can catch it and run. And that's always dangerous. All the guy needs to do is get one step, and if the ball is put in the right place, then he's going to increase that separation on the DB.
Yeah, I think, and look, everyone's worried about Rizzi fucking up the draft slot that we have. Currently, we have the 3rd pick in the draft. There's no elite quarterback as of right now, so I really don't think. I mean, if we win a couple of games, it is what it is. Just have a top 10 pick, which I think we will at the end of the day. You're still going to get a really good player or a prime position to trade down. I'm not sweating losing the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd pick. I don't think we're bad enough to, even with all the injuries, Nick's touched on it in a few previous episodes. The schedule's poor the rest of the way. We're gonna scrape out a few more victories, I think. Whether or not that's this week, I'm looking at the injury report right now. So Cedric Wilson did not practice. Kool-Aid did not practice. Olave obviously did not practice. Lucas Patrick did not practice. Everybody else was limited or full, including McCoy. So that bodes well for the offensive line. Man, I'm gonna say we win. I feel like this team's not as bad as they looked the last couple of weeks. They're getting healthier. I think they're going to be pissed off after last week losing to the Panthers the way that they did. They'll get the emotional boost of having DA out of here. So I think we win. I think Kamara is the MVP on offense. He was an absolute animal last week. We all talked about it. Corey and I specifically were in agreement that Kamara was the runaway MVP. I think Nick had other thoughts about that, but since we lost to the Panthers, we decided to not name an MVP rightfully. But I'm gonna go Kamara this week. I think it feels like he's gonna have 120 total yards. I'm gonna call it 2 touchdowns. I feel like he's been on fire the last couple of weeks. He looked amazing last week. He really did. He looked like he turned back the clock, and it was 2019 again. So I'll say Kamara on offense. I think on defense, this one's tougher. Man, I'm gonna go Granderson. I think we're gonna need to pressure Cousins if we're gonna have any success. Granderson, I guess, he's probably been he's easily been our best defensive lineman this year.
Yeah.
I think Granderson steps up. I feel like it's been a few weeks since he's had a sack or two. So I think he gets a sack, gets pressure, just has a general all around good day. I think you'll see Pete Werner continue to, show how valuable he is and put his stamp on the defense. So I think that everyone's going to play better across the board. We should have won that first game against the Falcons. All of us were coming back from the beach, and it was a painful game to watch just because we just stupid mistakes. Like Shaheed was, trying to catch the punt inside the 5-yard line. Carr's interception that got returned for a touchdown. Just poor decisions, poor luck, poor play. I think this time they turn it around. Saints win. Final score. It's a Falcons-Saints game. I think it'll be a close one. Let's go 24-21.
Okay. 24-21. All right. Or do you want me to go next?
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, you go next. I'll go left.
Yeah, I agree, Max, with the idea that this is a tough one, because that historically that first game with the interim coach is always such a boost. You see teams that don't have any chance of winning against another decent team just pull it out of their ass. Think about the Raiders with was it Antonio Pierce?
Yeah,
their coach. They just rallied behind him. I think Rizzi has the same. He's not like as recent of a former player like Pierce, but he's got the same kind of galvanizing effect on this team. You've already heard the players talk about it. So I think there's going to be certainly that emotional boost, and being a home game, it being the first game without Dennis Allen, there's going to be some energy in the crowd. I think half of England is going to be at this game. I would attempt to name all the guys, but there's enough of them here. Our friends across the pond, Steve, Mike.
No Dan though. Dan sitting this one out.
Right. Just a whole group of them, and yeah, so that's all going to be there. But then I think about the reality, and kind of to what you said, Max. There's just certain football factors, X's and O issues that I think we still have. I think the quality of our play should be improved. It's a special teams guys, so it's not like an offensive play calling head coach was fired, and so now you got to have a completely different guy calling the offense. The defense, Joe Woods is going to call the plays, so not too much of a difference there, presumably. But the issues for me, there's still personnel issues, and there will be a boost. We will play inspired. You'll see us flying around. You'll see a lot of energy. But I just think at the end, it's going to be one of these, not demoralizing, but more like heartbreaking type of losses for the Saints. Atlanta's going to pull it out in the end. I'm going to go with a 28-24 victory for the Falcons. I hate to do it. But I'm pretty far behind y'all in the standings here. So if there's a legitimate football reason to make a pick, I'm going to start erring on the side of the football reasons and not on the side of the emotion and the energy, which I would love to do. Don't get me wrong. And everybody listening, I would love nothing more than the Saints to just ride the wave, feed off the crowd, play inspired, fly around, and kick the shit out of the Falcons. I would love nothing more. But the realistic side of my brain is telling me I got to pick against them.
And look, I was going back and forth on it, even leading up to it. So
28-24 Falcons. Now, as far as MVPs go, offensively, I think it's going to be Taysom. He is the Falcon killer, so it's kind of maybe it's a little bit of a chalky pick there. I'm going to go call it. He's definitely going to have a touchdown. Might not crack the 100-yard total mark because we've seen that kind of with the way they're using him. It's pretty specific, so I don't think he's going to just rack up a bunch of yards, but I think he gets in the end zone, and it's really just his importance to the offense. Maybe he converts some third downs on his own several times, stuff like that. So give me Taysom, call it 70 total yards and a touchdown. And then on defense, I'm going with Pete Warner. I just think that, if anybody, look, he's been playing well to begin with. He's going to, I think a lot of those guys on defense are going to feel a bit of a sense of liberation. There were some bad vibes happening. Can't believe it, but contrary to what DA had said, he had said there were good vibes. There are not good vibes. And you heard that from some of the defenders. So I think a lot of the guys on the other side of the ball are going to be playing more free, kind of a nothing to lose mentality. So you combine that attitude with the way Pete just plays, sound, polished game of football. You look at the way the Falcons like to run their offense, centering it around Bijan, getting Pitts involved more recently. There's going to be a lot of opportunities there for Warner to be destructive, and I think he's going to do that. So give me 8 tackles for Warner, at least 1 tackle for loss, and pass breakup, whether it's guarding one of the running backs or tight ends.
Cool.
Okay. I don't think y'all much touched on it, but we just traded our best player.
I mentioned it.
Well, that goes in the personnel idea for me.
We're thin right there with injuries. Obviously, Adebo's out for the year. Kool-Aid's nursing the hamstring. Now Lattimore's gone. So you're rolling out there with Alante potentially as the number 1 corner again. We just allowed one of the best games of Bryce Young's career, which wasn't great. But if you factor in the drop touchdown, that was about a 50-yard touchdown, and the incredible interception, he could have hung another 100 yards on us last week. I just don't see how we stop that pass game. I don't see any path to it whatsoever. We don't have the pass rush to neutralize it. So, I see Mooney going for 100-plus yards on us. I don't know who's going to cover him. He ate us up last time anyway. So I think they score in the 30s on us, and I don't think we can score in the 30s. So I'm going to say it's 31-20. I do think we probably fight and keep it close for 2.5, 3 quarters, because we always do. We know these games. They don't turn into blowouts, no matter how bad they are or how bad we are. And I think this one matters to us. So I think we'll be busting our ass. But these teams are not remotely close with the teams they're fielding on Sunday. They have absolutely their whole roster available. We're missing our best, theoretically, where, in some people's eyes, in Olave, our best offensive player. And then we're missing our best defensive player because we just traded him. And we're missing potentially 3 starting corners. So when you factor all that in, I imagine they come out with a pass-heavy offense with that in mind, because I don't think they fear our pass rush, like I said. So I expect a big game from Cousins. I expect 300 to 350 on us, multiple touchdowns, kind of getting what they want. Maybe we can hold up on a few drives and keep the game close, and that's how we do it. But I expect them to be able to move the ball. I expect on offense that we're probably able to move it a little bit better than they think. Their defense has been pretty big underachiever most of the year. The Bucs ate them up, even though they destroyed the Bucs. They still gave up an abundance of yards in that game. But as y'all know, I've said they're the best team in the division for multiple weeks now, and that I think they would separate themselves towards the end. I think we're at that point right now. Tampa's fading. We've obviously are a non-factor with all the injuries. So I think this is where they put their stamp on the division and they just ride out the rest of the year and take the division title. Offensive MVP, I think with all those factors in mind, that we're going to lead with the run game because it's going to be the only way to keep that game close. So I'll have to go AK. I expect a ton of touches. I like the Taysom pick too because he's probably going to have 10 to 15 touches if we're going to keep this game close. Defense, I think they're coming out pass heavy, so I'm going to go with Alante making a play or two. As we know, he's kind of been feast or famine all year. He's either giving up the massive play or making the biggest plays. That's kind of been him all year. Corey felt he played pretty well last week. I thought he played pretty poorly and missed, got beat pretty bad. But there were opportunities there for him. He just dropped them. I mean, he should have had 2 picks.
Game for someone who was always around the ball.
Yeah, he was there.
Game.
He had the plays. They were right there.
Being facetious, it's not a bad game, but
anyway. But you drop 2 picks that are kind of right in your hands, not difficult interceptions. He got beat deep a couple times. Luckily, the bad drop saved us on one of them. But he is always around the ball. You got to give him that. His tackling you can question, but he's always around the ball. So I'm saying this week he makes the play because I do think he's a good player. And we'll just call it a pick and doesn't give up anything huge. But I'll take him as MVP in a otherwise MVP-less defense, most likely.
On offense, you said you liked the Taysom pick.
You said Kamara.
I liked it, but I picked Kamara. I think he's going to have 25-plus touches again. I think he has to.
He has to. He's going to have to basically have another career-high game for them to win.
Yeah. And look, he's going to set the cool thing is for everybody who's going, he's going to pass up Ingram finally. And he is the best running back in Saints history, so he should have that record. Yeah. And I think everybody should be pretty excited about that, at least this weekend will bring something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow, so I'm out on an island by myself picking the Saints win, huh? All right.
I can't do it. They're missing too many people still, especially
look, man, I was going back and forth as I was talking. I'm like, man, I might change my mind right now.
You want to pick them. If we were healthy again, I probably would have agreed with you because I do believe they're pretty motivated to win this game. I think they're going to be in it and battling their ass off.
Yeah. I just think it's like you said. You hit the nail on the head in that it never matters what the records are going into the game. It doesn't matter how healthy one team, how unhealthy another team is. It's always close with these two. Like it always comes down to a field goal and some fluky ass play is going to happen. So,
or we'll be getting our ass kicked and we get a pick 6 and you're just hanging a block punt. Something weird. It always happens both ways.
And I could see something crazy like Jermaine Jackson, the new returner. I could see him like busting a punt return for a touchdown too. It's just going to take something like that. Kind of like
MVS
what was it,
the Saints touchdown?
What was it, the Chiefs game where I said it's going to take a special teams turnover and whatever game that was. It's going to be the same situation where we're going to have to.
I mean, this is our Super Bowl for the season too, right? It's the only game that's left that matters probably to us.
Yeah, so, I mean, I disagree with like the outright efforts to tank, but one of the takes that I've seen out there that I do agree with is that the idea of being fine with losing every game we have left on the season, but winning the Falcons game. If
you have to try and win the Falcons.
If you're gonna if you end up losing the rest of them and win one game,
it's got to be this
the rest
one.
of the year. It's got to be this one.
Yeah.
Because what else do we have to play for when we know we're not making the playoffs?
Yeah, and they're not going to tank. They're not in tank mode at all. It's not in their DNA. Like they are going to bust ass to win as many of these games as they can. And we've seen before this team doesn't quit. Even when we don't have scumbag ownership. That's like I know Nick's had his criticism of the ownership, but we don't have the type of owners that are going to do the shit you heard about in Miami when they were sending messages down to Flores to
tank for Toro.
Coach. Yeah, it's like I don't believe we have those types of people in the building.
We don't. We don't.
I don't either, and I'm glad. I'm not about that. But what I will say about tanking, just since we brought it up, is when this offensive line's about healthy, at what point you just throw Rattler out there with a real offensive line or Hayner or whatever? Why not get some stock in that without – I don't want to actively try and lose games, but you've got two of those guys that are kind of in the same boat in their career, in my opinion. Let's roll them out there. Let's see what we got with a full offensive line. And, obviously they won't have much skill players to work with but because we just don't have any. But why not?
That in theory, I think realistically it would take – which might not be till some of the last few games of the year, the way we've done it before, but it would take us to be officially mathematically eliminated.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That
might happen this week, though. No, it won't.
Would,
It'll be
would this
another
end
week
the
or two,
division race? Would this end the division race?
Probably.
No, they can't. We would have heard it if they said the Falcons could clinch. I mean, it's
No,
effectively
they can't. They
clinched.
can't clinch, but they might knock us out to where we can't.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
We would be what, 2-8?
And have
So theoretically, we could go 9-8, and they could
They'd be
still
7-3.
You could still pass them up. Yeah. So
well, this would be our 4th division loss if we lose.
yeah, we lose the tiebreaker too. So they would only need 8 wins to.
It's still going to be a couple.
We could be eliminated next week if we lose.
Right, yeah.
Right.
I do agree with what you said though about putting the young quarterbacks out there. Like, I really want to see Haener. I want to see what Haener can do. Rattler got his shot. Now, admittedly, it wasn't the best supporting cast, but I would like to see one or both of them at some point the rest of the way, just to see how they perform with a solid offensive line.
Yeah. It would be a bad, like, quote unquote, bad look. But honestly, if that's what you're going with, like, either alternate them in games or give them a half each.
I'd rather give Haener a game, and just if he looks bad, and give Rattler a game. But the reality is, you got to see what you have with him, because there's a very good chance we are picking in the top 10, probably possibly top 5, and there's 2 quarterbacks that right now are standing out above the other ones with regards to the draft, and that's Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. So, you might be in a position to get one of them. So you might as well see what you got with Haener and Rattler right now.
Yeah, and I want to game plan it to win. Like, don't tank.
Let them.
Yeah, put them in a real environment. Let's go out and try and win an NFL game. Let's see what you got. I think it's just time to find out. Haener's going to be going into year 3 next year, so you've only got him 1-year contract after that, right? Or
no, you got 2 more years of him. Year 3 and 4.
Yeah, 3 and 4. I'm saying after next year. So if you're going into next year, we know Carr's back most likely. You're going to have to make a decision on Haener.
Yeah, the Lattimore trade virtually it guarantees Carr's
starting next year for sure.
Yeah, they're going to have to basically go to the bank of Carr. Someone, I think it was one of the Saints writers put that. It was the best way to put it, because you're going to have to restructure his contract.
Yeah,
again,
which adds
just to get under the cap. So, yeah, he's here for at minimum next year.
It's 2 more, really, most likely, because he was here next year anyway.
No, they could have cut bait with him, but once they traded Lattimore, that ended any thoughts of that.
But wasn't it $20 million plus to cut him next year?
Yeah, but they could have
after the restructure.
They could still cut him. They could have cut him if you didn't trade Lattimore. You could have cut. Mike Triplett did a whole article on it. I'll send it to you. It's
but you would have had Lattimore's $30 million still on the books.
No, because that would have been assuming you keep Lattimore and you probably restructure him, which would lessen his cap hit. So it was kind of an either or thing. You cannot trade Lattimore and cut/trade Carr. You can't do both. It was one or the other.
Right. We knew that. Yeah.
Right. So,
I just thought we'd still, even in cutting him, we would have had a dead cap money of 20 something, unless I saw something.
No, but that's fine. They can deal with that. But now they can't, because they're going to need every bit of his money. It's either basically now restructure Carr or don't, and restructure literally everybody else, which is like Matthew, Cam, probably.
And let's be honest, it's still Loomis, and Loomis loves Carr. So he was probably planning on keeping Carr anyway.
Probably, but you got to think that whoever the next coach is going to come in and have say-so on that.
The problem
another byproduct of Loomis being around. It's like he didn't get his chance to prove that DA. He was right in putting DA at the head coach, so now it's like his last-ditch effort to prove he was right on one of those major things that year.
Right. And the problem with that is Carr doesn't belong on a team like this. Carr is what we all said. I think, me especially, was that on a really good team, if you have the world perfect, Carr I think can win. Why would Carr be a rebuild quarterback? He's not going to be able to bring enough to the table, and we're stuck with him for at least a year.
I don't think even though we're stuck with him next year, I don't think it's a guarantee he starts. You can start one of the other ones.
You can do whatever you want, but they're going to go into it as him as a starter most likely.
Yeah, but I would imagine he would have a short leash / the other guys would have a 50-50 shot at beating him out.
Yeah.
But either way, fun times ahead.
That's right.
You know what time it is, though.
What should we do next? guys?
What time is it? Is it that time?
I think it might be that time. Hold on. Let me check something real quick. Let me see.
I can't believe I'm the only one that picked him.
I wanted to, and I saw Kool-Aid not practicing, Lattimore getting traded. I probably would have picked him on Monday.
The Lattimore getting traded wouldn't impact my pick at all because he doesn't play half the games for us. That hamstring's going to be miraculously 100% like by the weekend.
He played 7 and 9.
All right. I think I found it. Time for locks, baby. Another week of locks. So, folks, last week I was not successful in bringing home the double fumble.
Did we lose Corey?
Thought for sure it was going to happen. It did not. Panthers ended up playing kind of decent, but we're gonna try to redeem ourselves this week. Really, I'm gonna try to redeem myself. Saints Falcons, we hate that team, and so there's one man who always comes in and kills the Falcons, and that's Taysom. I promised you a double fumble last week. It didn't happen, but I'm sticking with the theme of twos. It's going to be Taysom 2-time this week. That's right. Taysom's getting into the red zone twice. It's going to happen. It could be either running, receiving, passing. Hell, he might even recover a fumble and bring it into the end zone because they put him in a defensive end on one play. I didn't call us to make the win, but if there's anybody we have hope in, it's going to be Taysom. So my lock of the week is Taysom time. Taysom 2 times. 2 touchdowns for Taysom Hill. That's your lock of the week. Gentlemen.
That was good.
That's perfect.
I love you drinking a beer.
You got the offer going, so we need to get off the schneid here, Corey. We need a win.
Need a lock.
People losing a lot of money on your locks.
Yeah, that lock is looking rather lonely, just being by itself. Well, Corey, you didn't tell us. You didn't tell us who the lock of the week is sponsored by.
This lock of the week is sponsored by Norton Leatherman Spine Center of Louisville, Kentucky.
There you go.
There it is. That's our guys.
Go see our good friend Dr. Paul Silvestri over there. It's a short flight. Don't worry about how your back's going to feel on the flight back. He'll give you some good stuff for that, and it'll be worth it.
Might need some of that good stuff to watch the game Sunday.
Yeah. The good stuff, just beer, not anything harmful.
There we go.
All right, let's wrap it up.
Wrap it up, Mr. Lock of the Week.
All right, folks. That's going to do it for this prediction lock episode of the Saints Falcons preview. We hope we get the win in the Dome. We hope we RIZZ them up, bring in the RIZZ. But we'll see. Till next time. Who dat?